The ground shook as another explosion lit up the purple sky of Kepler 442b. Lyrelei Starweaver pressed herself against the rocky wall and checked her plasma rifle. The weapon's energy cells showed only 12% power remaining. Around her, the sounds of battle echoed through the crystal canyon where her people had been fighting for 3 days straight. The Zephyrians were losing this fight. Lyrelei could see it in the way her fellow warriors moved with tired steps instead of their usual grace. The insectoid hive had brought more ships than anyone expected. Their black vessels filled the sky like angry clouds, dropping swarms of six-legged soldiers that clicked and buzzed as they advanced. "Starweaver, report your position." Commander Zara Nightwhisper's voice crackled through Lyrelei's comm device. Static made the words hard to understand. "Section 7, near the main." "Crystal formation," Lyrelei replied. She touched the blue skin on her forehead where small cuts bled silver. "Most of my unit is gone. I count maybe 6 of us left in this area." A pause filled the comm channel. When Zara spoke again, her voice carried bad news. "All units fall back. To the transport zone. We're pulling out. The mining facility is lost." Lyrelei felt her stomach drop. The crystal facility held enough power stones to fuel a dozen Zephyrian cities for a year. Losing it meant the hive would grow stronger while her people grew weaker. But orders were orders, and staying meant death. She ran toward the landing zone, her long silver hair flowing behind her. The special armor she wore helped her move faster, but she could feel its power systems failing. 3 hive soldiers spotted her and gave chase, their metal claws scraping against the rocky ground as they scuttled after her. Lyrelei spun around and fired her plasma rifle. The bright blue energy beam hit the first creature and turned it into ash. The second one jumped at her with its claws extended. She dodged left and fired again, but the shot only wounded it. The third one was already too close. The injured hive soldier slashed at her with its sharp arm. Lyrelei felt the claws tear through her armor and bite into her side. Pain shot through her body like lightning. She grabbed her backup weapon, a curved energy blade, and cut the creature in half. The third one backed away, making angry clicking sounds. Blood ran down Lyrelei's side as she stumbled toward the transport ships. The wound hurt more than anything she had felt before. Each step sent waves of pain through her body. She could see the silver shapes of Zephyrian ships in the distance, their engines glowing as they prepared to leave. A new sound made her look up. More hive ships were coming down from orbit, their dark hulls blocking out the purple sun. Green. Energy beams shot down from the vessels and hit the transport area. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers where the beams struck. "All ships take off now!" Zara's voice shouted through the comm. "Emergency departure! We cannot wait for stragglers!" Lyrelei pushed herself to run faster, but her legs felt weak. The wound in her side was bleeding too much. She could see the transport ships rising into the air, their engines burning bright as they climbed toward safety. One ship hung back, waiting for the last few soldiers to reach it. She was only 50 meters away when a hive beam hit the waiting transport. The ship exploded in a ball of fire and metal pieces. The blast knocked Lyrelei backward and sent hot air rushing over her. When the smoke cleared, burning wreckage covered the ground where the ship had been. The last transport ship disappeared into the clouds above. Lyrelei was alone on the battlefield with the dead and the approaching enemy. She dragged herself behind a large piece of broken crystal and tried to think. Her armor's life support system beeped warnings about her injuries. The medical systems were trying to seal her wounds, but they needed more power than the failing battery could provide. Hive soldiers moved through the area like metal spiders, checking for survivors. When they found wounded Zephyrians, they killed them quickly with their claws. Lyrelei knew she had maybe 10 minutes before they found her hiding spot. She activated her emergency beacon, a small device built into her armor. The beacon would send her location and medical data to any friendly forces in the area. Most likely, no one would receive it. The Zephyrian fleet was already jumping to hyperspace, running from this cursed planet. But the beacon had enough power to transmit for 6 hours. Maybe some other ship would pick up the signal. Maybe someone would come. Lyrelei closed her eyes and tried to slow her breathing. The pain in her side was getting worse, and her vision was starting to blur around the edges. A hive soldier clicked. Its way past her hiding spot, its metal feet making scratching sounds on the crystal ground. Lyrelei held her breath and stayed perfectly still. The creature's red eyes scanned the area, looking for movement. After a long moment, it moved on, to search somewhere else. Amy Rodriguez heard the strange beeping sound through her medical scanner and stopped walking. The human medic was supposed to be heading back to the evacuation point with the rest of her team, but something about the signal made her curious. She had been working with alien technology for only 3 months, but this sounded different from normal hive communications. "Dr. Park, I'm picking up an unknown transmission," Amy said into her comm device. "It might be a distress call." "Rodriguez, get back to the transport now," Dr. Lisa Park replied. "We leave in 10 minutes whether you're there or not." Amy looked at her scanner again. The signal was coming from the old battlefield, the place where the tall blue aliens had been fighting. Her training told her to follow orders and return to, safety, but her heart told her that someone might need help. She made her choice and headed toward the signal source. Amy moved carefully through the broken crystal formations, following the beeping signal on her scanner. The purple sky above was getting darker as night approached on this strange planet. Her medical pack felt heavy on her shoulders, but she had learned to carry everything she might need in emergency situations. The signal grew stronger as she climbed over a pile of twisted metal that used to be some kind of alien vehicle. Pieces of blue armor were scattered around the wreckage, along with strange weapons that still glowed with fading energy. Amy had seen these things before during the joint operations between humans and the tall blue aliens called Zephyrians. She found the source of the signal behind a large crystal boulder. A Zephyrian warrior lay curled up against the rock, her silver hair matted with purple blood. The alien's blue skin had turned pale, and her breathing was shallow and quick. Amy could see a deep wound in the warrior's side where her armor had been torn open. The Zephyrian's eyes opened when Amy approached. They were large and golden like a cat's eyes, but filled with pain and confusion. The alien tried to speak, but only made weak sounds. She looked at Amy with surprise, as if she had not expected to see a human. "Hey there," Amy said softly, kneeling, down beside the wounded warrior. "I'm a medic. I'm here to help you." The Zephyrian shook her head and tried to push Amy away with one weak hand. She spoke in her own language, words that sounded like music mixed with whispers. Amy did not understand the words, but the tone was clear. The alien did not want help from a human. Amy ignored the protest and opened her medical pack. She had worked with injured Zephyrians before at the human base hospital. Their bodies were similar to humans in many ways, but they had some important differences. Their blood was purple instead of red, and they could heal faster if their energy systems were working properly. "Look, I know you probably think humans are primitive," Amy said as she pulled out her medical scanner, "but right now, I'm the only help you're going to get. Your people left, and the bug creatures are still hunting for survivors." The Zephyrian's golden eyes widened when Amy mentioned the hive soldiers. She looked around nervously and then back at Amy. After a moment, she nodded slowly and stopped trying to push Amy away. Amy ran her scanner over the alien's body and frowned at the results. The wound in the warrior's side was deep and had damaged several internal organs. Worse, the Zephyrian's natural healing systems were failing because her armor's power was almost gone. Without help, she would die in less than an hour. "My name is Amy," the human medic said as she prepared her instruments. "What's your name?" The Zephyrian whispered something that sounded like Lyrelei. Amy smiled and repeated it back, trying to get the pronunciation right. The alien nodded when Amy got close to the correct sound. "Okay, Lyrelei, this is going to hurt. But I need to stop the bleeding first," Amy said. She pulled out a spray bottle filled with medical foam that would seal wounds and help with healing. It was designed for humans, but she had seen it work on Zephyrians too. Lyrolei's body went rigid when Amy sprayed the foam into her wound. The alien made a sound like a cat hissing, but she did not try to stop Amy from working. The foam expanded and turned from white to purple as it mixed with Zephyrian blood. Within seconds, the bleeding slowed to a trickle. Amy used her portable medical kit to check Lyrolei's vital signs. The alien's heartbeat was too fast and her body temperature was dropping. These were signs of shock, something Amy had dealt with many times in human patients. She hoped the same treatments would work for Zephyrians. "I need to get you somewhere safe," Amy said, looking around at the battlefield. Can you walk? Lyra tried to sit up but fell back against the rock with a gasp of pain. She shook her head and pointed to her left leg. Amy could see that the leg was bent at a wrong angle, probably broken when the alien had been thrown by an explosion. The sound of clicking metal feet made both of them freeze. A hive soldier was approaching their hiding spot, its red eyes scanning the ground for tracks. Amy quickly helped Lyra scoot deeper behind the crystal boulder, trying to stay out of sight. The bug creature stopped just a few meters away from their hiding place. Its head turned back and forth like a radar dish, searching for any sign of life. Amy held her breath and kept one hand on Lyra's shoulder to keep the injured alien still. After what felt like forever, the hive soldier clicked away to search somewhere else. Amy waited until she could no longer hear its metal feet before moving again. She knew they needed to find better shelter before more creatures came looking. There, Lyra whispered in broken English, pointing toward a dark opening in the ground about 30 meters away. Bunker. Safe. Amy looked where. The alien was pointing and saw what appeared to be the entrance to an underground facility. The opening was partially hidden by fallen rocks and metal debris. It looked like it had been built by the Zephyrians, which meant it might have power and medical equipment. Can you crawl that far? Amy asked. Lyra nodded, though her face showed how much pain she was in. Amy helped the alien warrior roll onto her stomach, then supported her weight as they began the slow journey toward the bunker entrance. Every few meters, they had to stop and rest while Lyra fought against waves of pain. When they finally reached the bunker opening, Amy was relieved to see that the entrance was clear. The door had been damaged, but was still partially open. She helped Lyra crawl through the gap and into the darkness beyond. Inside, Amy used a small flashlight to look around. The bunker was larger than she had expected, with several rooms connected by metal corridors. The walls were covered with strange symbols that glowed faintly in the dark. Some kind of emergency power was still working, because she could hear the quiet hum of machines. Amy found a room that looked like it had been used for medical purposes. There were beds designed for Zephyrian bodies and cabinets full of alien medical supplies. She helped Lyra onto one of the beds and began examining the equipment, trying to figure out how it worked. The blue panel, Lyra said weakly, pointing to a control console on the wall. Touch it. Amy pressed her hand against the blue panel and the room filled with soft light. More machines came online, and she could hear the sounds of life support systems starting up. The air became cleaner and warmer, and she felt some of the tension leave her shoulders. Now she could see Lyra clearly in the light. The alien warrior was young, maybe the equivalent of a human in her 20s. Her silver hair was long and beautiful, even matted with dirt and blood. Despite her injuries, there was something proud and strong about the way she held herself. Thank you, Lyra said in careful English. You saved my life. Amy smiled as she began setting up her medical equipment. Don't thank me yet. We still need to fix that leg and make sure your internal injuries heal properly. This is going to be a long night. 3 days had passed since Amy found Lyra on the battlefield. The underground bunker had become their temporary home, and Amy had learned more about Zephyrian medicine than she ever expected. The alien medical equipment was far more advanced than human technology, but it required someone with knowledge to operate it properly. Lyra's injuries were healing, but slowly. Amy had managed to set the broken leg using a combination of human techniques and Zephyrian healing devices. The internal bleeding had stopped thanks to the alien medical foam and some strange machines that used light to repair damaged tissue. But Lyra was still weak, and her natural energy powers were not working correctly. Your people will not come back for me, Lyra said, as Amy checked her vital signs with a Zephyrian medical scanner. After 72 hours, missing warriors are considered dead. It is our way. Amy looked up from the scanner readout. The numbers were getting better each day, but Lyra was right about one thing. No rescue ships had appeared in the purple sky above the planet. They were truly alone. Then we'll have to get you to the human base, Amy said. It's about 50 kilometers from here, but our medical facilities can help you recover completely. Lyra shook her head. 50 kilometers through hive territory. Impossible. The creatures will find us and kill us both. You should leave me. Here, and go back to your people. Amy sat down on the edge of the medical bed and looked at the alien warrior seriously. I have a daughter back on Earth. Her name is Katie, and she's only 8 years old. Do you know what I told her before I came to this planet? Lyra Lee's golden eyes showed curiosity, but she did not speak. I told her that sometimes grown-ups have to help people who are hurt even when it's dangerous, Amy continued. I told her that's what makes us human. We don't leave people behind when they need help. Your species is strange, Lyra Lee said, softly. Zephyrians would calculate the odds of success. If they were too low, we would make the logical choice to save whoever we could. Amy smiled. Maybe that's why humans and Zephyrians make good allies. We think differently, but we both want to protect people we care about. Over the past 3 days, Amy had learned about Lyra Lee's life as a warrior in the Zephyrian military. The alien was 127 years old, which was young for her people who could live for over 500 years. She had been fighting in wars since she was 90, using her natural ability to control energy as a weapon against her enemies. In return, Amy had told Lyra Lee about Earth and human culture. She showed the alien pictures of Katie on her personal communicator and explained how humans raised their children and built their communities. Lyra Lee was fascinated by the idea that humans could form strong emotional bonds with people who were not related to them by blood. I think I am strong enough to travel, Lyra Lee said, moving her injured leg carefully. The pain is less now, and I can feel my energy returning slowly. Amy ran another scan and nodded. The readings showed that Lyra Lee's body was healing faster than a human would, but she was still not at full strength. We'll need to be very careful. Your energy powers are still unstable, and that leg won't support your full weight for another week. Amy had been working on a solution to that problem. Using pieces of broken Zephyrian armor and some human engineering knowledge, she had built a simple support frame that would help Lyra Lee walk. It was not pretty, but it would work for short distances. Try this, Amy said, helping Lyra Lee stand up and strapping the support frame around her injured leg. The device used small energy cells from damaged equipment to power artificial muscles that would assist Lyra Lee's movements. Lyra Lee took a few careful steps across the bunker room. The support frame worked, though she still limped and had to move slowly. This is remarkable. You built this with no training in Zephyrian technology. Humans are good at making things work, even when we don't fully understand them, Amy said with a grin. It's one of our best talents. They spent the rest of the day preparing for their journey. Amy packed medical supplies and food rations into 2 packs. Lyra Lee contributed some Zephyrian equipment, including a weapon that could fire energy bolts, and a device that could detect hive creatures from a distance. The scanner shows heavy hive activity along the direct route to your base, Lyra Lee said, studying the readings on her handheld device. But there is an old mining tunnel system that runs parallel to our path. It will take longer, but we might avoid most of the patrols. Amy looked at the map Lyra Lee had called up on the bunker's main display. The tunnel system was marked in blue, winding through the mountains like a snake. It would add at least 2 days to their journey, but it was much safer than traveling on the surface. Tunnels sound good to me, Amy said. I've had enough of bug creatures for one lifetime. They left the bunker before dawn, when the purple sky was just beginning to lighten. Amy had rigged the bunker's systems to make it look like the facility was still abandoned in case hive scouts came looking. She hoped they would never need to return, but it was good to have a backup plan. The entrance to the mining tunnels was hidden in a rocky outcrop about 1 kilometer from the bunker. Lyra Lee's scanner showed no hive activity in the immediate area, but they moved carefully anyway. The alien warrior's energy detection abilities were still weak, and Amy's human senses were not good enough to spot enemies at long range. The tunnel entrance was partially collapsed, but there was enough room for them to squeeze through. Inside, the passages were dark and filled with stale air. Amy turned on her flashlight and saw walls of smooth stone that had been carved by Zephyrian mining equipment. Strange crystals grew from the ceiling, glowing faintly with stored energy. These tunnels were abandoned 50 years ago when the crystal veins ran out, Lyra Lee explained as they walked deeper into the mountain. No one has been here since then. We should be safe from hive patrols. The walking was easier than Amy had expected. The tunnel floors were smooth, and the artificial gravity generators still worked in most sections. Lyra Lee moved slowly, but steadily, her support frame helping her maintain balance on the uneven ground. After several hours of walking, they stopped to rest in a wider section of tunnel. Amy checked Lyralay's injuries and was pleased to see that the movement was actually helping the healing process. The alien's natural systems worked better when her body was active. "Amy," Lyralay said as they shared a meal of human rations and Zephyrian energy bars, "why did you become a medic?" Amy thought about the question while she chewed on a protein bar. "When I was Katie's age, my grandmother got very sick. The doctors said there was nothing they could do, but one nurse never gave up trying to help her. She spent extra time with my grandmother, found new treatments to try, and never stopped, believing that healing was possible." "Did your grandmother survive?" "No," Amy said quietly. "But that nurse taught me that healing is not just about saving lives. Sometimes it's about helping people feel less afraid, or making sure they know someone cares about them. That's just as important as medicine." Lyralay was quiet for a long time after Amy finished speaking. Finally, she said, "Zephyrian warriors are taught to be strong and independent. We do not like to need help from others. But you have shown me that accepting help can be a form of strength too." Amy smiled and packed up their supplies. "Come on, warrior. Let's get you home." On the second day in the tunnels, Amy and Lyralay heard sounds that made them both freeze in place. Voices echoed through the stone passages, speaking in human language. Amy recognized the accent immediately. American soldiers, probably from her own unit. "Someone's down here," a woman's voice called out. "I'm seeing footprints in the dust." Amy and Lyralay looked at each other. They had been careful to avoid leaving obvious tracks, but human soldiers were trained to notice small details. Amy made a quick decision and called out into the darkness. "This is Medic Amy Rodriguez. Don't shoot. I have a wounded ally with me." The voices stopped talking, and Amy heard the sound of weapons being readied. After a moment, a new voice responded. "Rodriguez, we thought you were dead. Dr. Park said you went missing 3 days ago." "I'm alive, but I need help," Amy called back. "I have an injured Zephyrian warrior who needs medical attention." 3 human soldiers appeared around a bend in the tunnel, their weapons lowered, but ready. The leader was a woman with sergeant stripes on her armor. Amy recognized her as Kelly Morgan, one of the best reconnaissance specialists in the human forces. "Jesus, Rodriguez," Sergeant Morgan said when she saw Amy and Lyralay. "What the hell are you doing down here, and why are you traveling with one of the blue aliens?" Amy quickly explained how she had found Lyralay on the battlefield and everything that had happened since then. The other 2 soldiers, both young men whose name tags read Harrison Chen, listened with growing amazement. "You've been taking care of her for 3 days?" Soldier Harris asked. "I thought these aliens were supposed to be superior to humans in every way." "They are superior in many ways," Amy said, helping Lyralay sit down on a rocky ledge. "But they still need help when they're hurt, just like anyone else." Sergeant Morgan studied Lyralay with professional interest. "Can she fight? Because we've got a problem that might require some alien expertise." Amy translated the question for Lyralay, who had been following the conversation but did not speak much English. The alien warrior nodded and replied in her musical language. "She says her combat abilities are limited by her injuries, but she can still use weapons and her knowledge of enemy tactics," Amy translated. "Good, because the Hive has surrounded the human base," Morgan said grimly. "We were on a scouting mission when they started their attack 2 days ago. The base shields are holding for now, but they won't last much longer." Amy felt her heart sink. The human base was supposed to be their safe destination, the place where Lyralay could recover fully and where Amy could return to her normal duties. If it was under attack, they might all be trapped on this planet. "How many Hive soldiers?" Lyralay asked in careful English. Morgan looked surprised that the alien could speak human language. "Our last count was over 10,000, with more ships arriving every few hours. They've got some kind of new weapon that's draining the shield generators faster than expected." Lyralay's golden eyes widened with concern. "Energy vampires. Hive. Technology that feeds on power sources. Very dangerous." "You know about these weapons?" Morgan asked. "Zephyrian forces encountered them 2 months ago on the planet Xerion Prime," Lyralay replied. "Entire cities lost power in minutes. But there is a way to stop them." Amy helped Lorelei stand up so she could access the small computer built into her armor. The alien warrior called up technical diagrams and battle reports from previous encounters. With hive energy vampires, the weapons must be synchronized with a central control node, Lorelei explained, pointing to the diagrams. If the control node is destroyed, the energy vampires become useless, but reaching the control node requires getting close to the center of their forces. Morgan studied the information carefully. Do you know what this control node looks like? Large. Black covered with red energy conduits, Lorelei said, usually placed on highest ground in hive encampments for maximum signal range. There's a hill overlooking the human base, Chen said. We saw some kind of big structure there when we were doing reconnaissance yesterday, black and red just like she described. Morgan made a decision quickly. We're going to have to hit that control node. It's the only way to save the base and everyone in it. Amy felt nervous about the plan, but she knew Morgan was right. If the base fell, thousands of humans and allied aliens would die, and without the base, there was no way for any of them to get off this planet alive. The group spent an hour planning their approach. The hill where the control node was located was heavily defended, but there were drainage tunnels that led close to the target. Lorelei's knowledge of hive tactics would help them avoid the worst of the enemy patrols. I should stay here, Lorelei said when they finished planning. My injuries will slow you down and humans can move more quietly than Zephyrians. Amy shook her head firmly. No, you're the only one who really understands how that control node works. We need you there to make sure we destroy it properly. Amy is right, Morgan agreed. Besides, we might need your energy weapons if things go wrong. They left the tunnels and emerged onto the surface as the purple sun was setting. In the distance, Amy could see the glow of energy weapons and explosions where the human base was fighting for its life. The sight made her think of Katie back on Earth and all the other families who were counting on them to succeed. The drainage tunnels that led to the hill were partially flooded with purple water that smelled like metal and ozone. They had to wade through the liquid in single file, with Morgan leading and Amy staying close to Lorelei in case the alien warrior needed support. When they reached the base of the hill, they could see the hive control node clearly. It was exactly as Lorelei had described, a massive black structure covered with pulsing red conduits that carried energy stolen from the human base. Hundreds of hive soldiers patrolled around it, their metal claws gleaming in the strange light. There, Lorelei whispered, pointing to a cluster of red conduits near the base of the structure. Those are the primary power feeds. Destroy them, and the entire system will overload. Amy checked her medical pack and found the small explosives she carried for emergency surgery. They were designed to break through damaged metal in rescue situations, but they might be powerful enough to damage the alien technology. I can get close enough to plant charges, Amy said, but I'll need a distraction to keep the guards busy. Morgan and her soldiers prepared their weapons while Lorelei powered up her energy rifle. Despite her injuries, the alien warrior moved with deadly grace as she took position behind a boulder. Give me 5 minutes to get into position, Amy said. Then make as much noise as possible. Amy crawled through the rocky terrain toward the control node, using every bit of stealth training she had learned in the medical corps. The hive soldiers were focused on watching for attacks from the direction of the human base, not expecting anyone to approach from behind. When the distraction started, it was spectacular. Morgan and her team opened fire with everything they had, while Lorelei's energy weapon cut through hive soldiers like a sword through paper. The entire hilltop erupted in chaos as the defenders rushed to respond to the attack. Amy reached the base of the control node and quickly planted her explosives on the red conduits. She had just finished setting the timer when a hive soldier spotted her and raised its claws to strike. Lorelei's energy beam hit the creature before it could hurt Amy. "Run!" the alien warrior shouted in English. 30 seconds! Amy sprinted, away from the control node as fast as her legs could carry her. Behind her, she could hear the high-pitched whine of the explosives reaching critical charge. She dove behind a rock just as the devices detonated. The explosion lit up the night sky like a purple sun. The control node collapsed in on itself, and every energy vampire weapon in the hive army suddenly went dark. At the human base, the shields flared back to full power as the energy drains stopped. Amy looked back at the hilltop and saw Lorelei leaning heavily against a boulder, her energy rifle smoking from overuse. The alien warrior was exhausted, but she was smiling. The destruction of the control node changed everything about the battle for the human base. Without their energy vampire weapons, the Hive forces lost their main advantage against the Allied shields. Within hours, human and Zephyrian ships arrived to drive off the remaining attackers. Amy sat in the base medical center, watching Dr. Lisa Park examine Lyrelei with advanced alien healing equipment. The Zephyrian warrior's injuries were finally healing properly now that she had access to her people's technology. Her broken leg was almost completely repaired, and the internal damage was fading like a bad memory. Remarkable, Dr. Park said as she studied the medical readings. The combination of human and Zephyrian treatment techniques actually accelerated her healing beyond normal parameters. Amy, you may have discovered something important here. 3 Zephyrian ships had landed at the human base that morning. Their crews were amazed to find Lyrelei alive, and even more amazed to learn that a human medic had saved her life. Commander Zara Nightwhisper herself had come to hear the full story. Impossible, Zara said when Lyrelei finished her report. Human medical knowledge is centuries behind our own. How could primitive techniques be effective on Zephyrian physiology? Lyrelei looked at Amy, who was organizing medical supplies nearby. Commander, I have learned that calling something primitive does not make it useless. Human medicine may be simple, but it is also creative and adaptable. Amy found solutions that our own medical computers did not consider. Amy finished her work and joined the conversation. She felt nervous talking to such a high-ranking alien officer, but Lyrelei had taught her that Zephyrians respected directness and honesty. Ma'am, I think our 2 species could learn a lot from each other medically, Amy said. Your technology is amazing, but sometimes human instincts and experience can help when technology fails. Zara studied Amy with the same golden eyes that all Zephyrians had. You saved the life of one of our finest warriors. You also provided crucial intelligence that helped save this base. The Zephyrian High Council wishes to offer you a position in our medical exchange program. Amy's eyes widened in surprise. Exchange program? Human medics would study at Zephyrian hospitals, learning our healing techniques, Zara explained. In return, you would teach our healers about human adaptability and creative thinking. The program would last 3 years and take place on various worlds throughout our territory. Amy felt her heart racing. It was an incredible opportunity, the chance to learn alien medicine and help build bridges between species. But it would also mean leaving Earth for 3 years, leaving Katie and everything familiar. I need time to think about it, Amy said. This is a big decision. Of course, Zara replied. Take all the time you need. The offer will remain open. Later, that evening, Amy sat with Lyrelei on the observation deck of the medical center. Through the transparent walls, they could see the purple sunset painting the alien sky in shades of violet and gold. Zephyrian ships moved gracefully through the clouds, preparing to leave the planet now that the battle was over. You should accept the exchange program, Lyrelei said quietly. You have a gift for healing that could help many people across the galaxy. Amy sighed and pulled out her personal communicator to look at pictures of Katie. I know it's a great opportunity, but Katie is so young. 3 years is a long time to be away from her. Tell me about your daughter, Lyrelei said. Amy scrolled through pictures as she talked. She's smart and curious about everything. She wants to be a scientist when she grows up, maybe an astronomer. She loves looking at the stars and wondering, what's out there? She sounds like she would understand why this work is important, Lyrelei observed. Amy thought about that. Katie had always been proud of her mother's work as a medic, even when it meant Amy had to travel to dangerous places. Maybe her daughter would understand that this was a chance to help people across the entire galaxy. There's something else, Amy said. Zara mentioned that I would be teaching Zephyrian healers about human techniques. I'm not sure I'm qualified for that. Lyrelei smiled, and her whole face seemed to glow with warmth. Amy, you saved my life. Using nothing but basic medical supplies and human determination, you figured out how to combine our technologies in ways that our best computers had not considered. If that does not qualify you to teach, then nothing does. Over the next 2 days, Amy watched as preparations were made for the Zephyrian departure. Lyrelei was officially cleared for duty, though she had requested a transfer to the new Cultural Exchange Division. She would be working to improve relations between humans and Zephyrians, using her experience with Amy as a foundation. On the morning of the departure, Amy made her decision. She found Zara in the command center, reviewing final reports before leaving the planet. "Commander, I accept your offer to join the medical exchange program," Amy said, "but I have one request." "What is your request?" "I want regular communication with my daughter on Earth," Amy said, "and I want her to be able to visit me during school breaks if transportation can be arranged." Zara nodded approvingly. "Family bonds are important to humans. We will ensure that your connection to your daughter remains strong." Amy felt a weight lift from her shoulders. She could pursue this incredible opportunity while still being a good mother to Katie. Lyreley approached them, carrying a small crystal that glowed with soft blue light. "Amy, this is a Zephyrian healing crystal. It responds to bioelectric fields and can enhance natural healing abilities. I want you to have it as a token of friendship and gratitude." Amy accepted the crystal, feeling its warm energy pulse against her palm. "Thank you. I have something for you too." She pulled out a small resin cube containing a pressed flower from Earth. "It's a daisy from the field behind my house where Katie likes to play. I thought you might like to have something that represents human beauty and simplicity." Lyreley held the resin cube up to the light, watching the flower's delicate petals glow in the illumination. "It is perfect. I will treasure it always." 6 months later, Amy stood in the medical bay of a Zephyrian research vessel, teaching a class of mixed human and alien students. The healing crystal that Lyreley had given her was now part of a revolutionary new medical scanner that combined human intuition with Zephyrian technology. Her personal communicator chimed with an incoming message. Amy smiled when she saw it was from Lyreley, who was now working at the Zephyrian embassy on Earth. "Amy," the message began, "I have wonderful news. The first Zephyrian medical student has been approved for study at a human hospital. She specifically requested to work with the human who saved a star, as you are now known in our medical academies. Also, I met your daughter Katie yesterday when she visited the embassy on a school trip. She is as remarkable as you described, and she wanted me to tell you that she is proud of the work you are doing to help people across the galaxy." Amy looked around at her classroom, where human and alien students were working together to solve medical problems that neither species could handle alone. Through the viewport, she could see the stars stretching out into infinity, each one representing new worlds where healing was needed. She thought about the day she had found Lyreley on that distant battlefield, and how a simple decision to help someone in need had led to all of this. Sometimes the smallest acts of compassion could change the course of entire civilizations. Amy picked up her teaching materials and prepared for the next lesson. There was still so much work to do, so many people to heal, and so many bridges to build between the stars. But for the first time since leaving Earth, she felt like she was exactly where she belonged.